Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. One of the hottest things in sports right now is the conversation around Caitlin Clark, right? Caitlin Clark, she's becoming a lightning rod and a bit polarizing, because there's some people that 100% support her, and there are other people out there that are like, what's all the hype? What's all the hype about? There have been other great WNBA players. Why is this particular player getting all of this praise, adulation, and all of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And this has kind of manifested itself on various sports debate shows. We've seen people like Stephen A. Smith and Monica McNutt and these guys on ESPN First Take get into some very spirited debates. We produced a show just the other day, one of our best shows, got about 400,000 views, and it was centered on a back and forth that took place on ESPN First Take featuring Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharpe, and Molly Karam, where they basically called her out for like, don't switch it up now. Don't switch it up now. Because like a lot of y'all were coming at people like me and Shannon for basically saying that y'all need to keep promoting Caitlin Clark and all of that. And now all of a sudden you want to act like you want to see the light. So there's been a lot of conversation around this right? So what happened this morning? I was going through the internet and I came across some comments from Charles Barkley. Initially, it was referred to me on Instagram from Yahoo Sports, because I follow Yahoo Sports, and so I saw the quotes. So this morning I decided to hunt down the source of it, and it turned out he actually had a visit to the Bill Simmons podcast where he talked about a bunch of things: the Boston Celtics, the WNBA, inside the NBA, all those different things. And then it got to the point where he was discussing Caitlin Clark. And if you know anything at all about Charles Barkley, you know that he's one to never bite his tongue. He's going to tell you exactly how he sees it. And I think because of that, because of the level of candor that he speaks with, it causes some people to like him and it causes some people to dislike him. But nevertheless, you're never wondering and guessing where Charles Barkley stands on issues. So when it came to the Caitlin Clark story, and, you know, they started to discuss it, Charles Barkley basically started ripping the WNBA for their mismanagement of this unicorn that they had. And he said that they have messed it up in ways that are absolutely unimaginable. And he can't believe how bad of a job the WNBA is doing in terms of capitalizing on the momentum. So what we want to do now is we want to play some of the comments that Charles Barkley had to make on on the Bill Simmons podcast, and then we're going to come back and react to what he had to say. Take a listen to Charles Barkley here.
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan.
It's been a good season.
They cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. If you got people in a room,
yeah,
if you got a bunch of dudes in a room and says, let's WNBA, we couldn't have came up a master plan what these women have done. This girl is incredible. What she did in college for women's basketball, what she's doing in the WNBA.
She turned the Fever. We're 1-8. They have a winning record now.
But the number of attention, eyeballs, she's brought to college and the pros. And for these women to have this petty jealousness, you say to yourself, damn, what is going on here? And
well, you got accused of that stuff too, with the older players being resentful of the new generation. It's kind of part of the basketball process. Everybody thinks their generation's the best.
No. Anytime we say something about guys, it ain't the old get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
But the stuff toward her is petty and jealous. And the thing I love about her, she never says a word. And now when I watch her, two things I like. She's playing much faster.
Yeah.
Much faster. She was playing too slow the first half of the season.
I think she was tired. I think she was banged up from the college season.
They didn't even give her the understanding, like, you girls been ready for the WNBA season. Y'all been working out on the no straight. She came straight out of college and had to go right to the WNBA like 2 weeks later. So they didn't factor in. But I think she's learned. when I watched her play the last month, I think she's learning to play much faster because I think she's learning to trust those girls more. Because, when she's in college, she's not passing to a bunch of great players. Now you can see when she plays, she's playing a lot without the ball. She reminds me a lot of Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's the best I've ever seen with playing without the basketball.
Yeah.
I played with Jason Kidd one time in an All-Star game. He says, Chuck, you should be getting like 6 to 8 points a game more, right? I said, what are you talking about? He says, I'm going to kick it ahead to you.
Yeah.
He says, your point guards wait and give you the ball too late. If I give you the ball full speed ahead instead of waiting for you to finish, you get another 8 to 10 points a game. She's starting to see now, if I play faster and give it to them sooner, so that tells us she's really smart. But these ladies, who I love and respect their game, they couldn't have thing up any worse. Because we have talked, and talking about Asia. Asia Will's the best woman player in the world right now. She's incredible. Connecticut Sun's having a great year. The Minnesota Lynx is having a great year. But there's been so much negativity, and a lot of it is just petty jealousness. And I love the way and I'll tell you what really good happened to her, not making the Olympic team.
Totally agree. Well, it also gave her a break.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
Giving her that time off has given her a chance to recharge her batteries. So it ended up, she probably did deserve to make the Olympic team on merit, but her getting that time off probably was the best thing happened to her.
So you heard what he had to say, right? He didn't mince words. He didn't second guess himself. He said exactly what he thinks, and he used the word that got Stephen A. Smith into some hot water with some women that cover sports when he used the word jealousy. For whatever reason, when men use this word to describe certain relationships between various women, it's like a no-go area. You should never use that word. But Charles Barkley just said it flat out that he senses a lot of jealousy within the WNBA. Some people are like, well, what's so special about her? Well, first of all, let's look at her stats this season. Caitlin Clark this season, this is according to, basketballreference.com. She's averaging 18.9 points per game as a rookie, 5.8 rebounds, 8.4 assists on 42.5% shooting from the field, 34.3% shooting from the three-point line. Her free throw shooting percentage just went up from a few days ago. Now she's shooting 90% from the free throw line. And she's also getting you about 5 turnovers a game. So that's pretty high. So some people will look at that and say, well, I mean, those are great numbers, but does it warrant all of this hoopla and all of the hysteria around it? Let me give you guys some information that I think may help you understand this. Let's look at Caitlin Clark's the attendance in terms of people that have come to watch her. According to an article that we gotten from Sportico, it says Caitlin Clark fever sent attendance record with Olympians watching. More than 500,000 fans have now watched Caitlin Clark's record-shattering rookie season in person, setting a new attendance high for a WNBA team. The Indiana Fever recently reported that 503,000 visitors have attended the team's 31 home and away games this season, including 17,274 who watched the Fever beat the 22-8 Connecticut Suns 84-80 Wednesday night. Amongst those at Cambridge Fieldhouse were the Olympic gold medalists Simone Biles and Gabby Thompson. Biles posted online that it was her first WNBA game, but that it wouldn't be her last. She wrote, "Everyone watches women's sports. So happy to be able to go support my first of many WNBA games." Stop. Let's stop it right there. All right. Let's stop it right there. Let's just focus on the comments that Simone Biles just made. Okay. For the longest time, women in sports have been complaining that they don't get enough support from men, for the WNBA, right? Men have always pushed back and said, well, if you want there to be more revenue and all of these things, go watch the games. Before we show up, you show up. When you show up, we'll know that you're serious, and then we'll show up. But don't ask us to show up when you as women are not even showing up to these games. If you now look at the comments from Simone Biles, what did she say? She said, this was the first WNBA game she's attended in her life. The question then becomes, why? Why was that the first WNBA game she attended? I think we can all agree that Caitlin Clark played a major role in her attending that game. I think we can also agree that Caitlin Clark is the biggest reason we've been talking about the WNBA as much as we have. Folks, let me break it to you. Prior to Caitlin Clark exploding on the scene, I never spoke about the WNBA. I never cared about the WNBA. I wasn't interested at all. It was of no interest to me whatsoever. So it is fair to say that the impact that she's having on the sport is real. And for people or WNBA players or the WNBA to find a way to screw it up is unbelievable to me. But that is exactly what has been happening. There's some people out there like, why is Caitlin Clark receiving all of this hype? Why not Angel Reese? Why not this person? Why not that person? My question is, why does it have to be somebody? Why can't it just be her and then we move on? Why can't it just be her and then we move on? Why does it have to be, well, if she's getting it, the other it just so happens that some people got the glow. Some people got the glow for whatever reason. We know this in real life. There are people that we come across, maybe in junior high, in high school, in college. They're just some people that attract people, and they have this way of pulling in people with their energy, and it's just natural. It's just natural. And we also have to look at, because it's not just hype, she's actually playing well. She's playing a lot better since the Olympics. She's actually elevated her basketball game. So to me, how the WNBA players and these guys are finding a way to screw it up, I don't understand. In the NBA, we never have these conversations, ever. We never have debate panels, sitting down, think groups. Okay, we're going to use this word to describe what's going on between LeBron and this guy. We're going to use that word. No, we don't have time to be wasting on that. We're moving forward. It's like this thing is moving. But in the WNBA, they want to be sitting there fighting and, oh, why is this? Why is that? And what I think is happening, what I see happening right now is this. I'm actually noticing, ironically, that men are the number one supporters of Caitlin Clark. Just yesterday, I was watching a segment on Gil's Arena. It was featuring Brandon Jennings, Rashard McCant, Gilbert Arenas, and a WNBA player. I forgot her name. She's a regular guest. And it was the men that were basically hyping up Caitlin Clark and defending it. And it was them calling out the women. Think about the irony of this. The women have been complaining that the men are not supporting enough. They're not going to games and they're not donating more, whatever the hell it is. You heard Lisa Leslie on The Shop with Draymond Green complaining about this very thing. And now, when you guys have a star and a cash cow and somebody that's taking your sport to the next level, you look for a way to nitpick at her and find problems. And now you have men that you've been asking for their support in terms of their viewership and all of that. You have men defending this woman in your sport. You can't make this up. And that is exactly what Charles Barkley is saying when he says the WNBA could not have screwed it up any more than they already have. And I 100% concur. It is beyond me that we're spending this much time talking about all of these ancillary things that do not matter. Yesterday, Charles Barkley made a guest appearance on the Bill Simmons podcast. And during his visit, he was discussing the drama inside the NBA. We know the back and forth. At one point, I just decided I'm not even going to follow that story anymore. I'm not going to cover it because none of it makes sense to me anymore. Once we're at one point, the show was being canceled. Then we're hearing the show's coming back. Then we heard Charles Barkley's retiring. Then we hear he's not retired. I was like, man, I'm tired. Like, I'll just wait and see how everything plays out. Right? I'm tired of that story. They discussed that. He touched on Caitlin Clark. He had some pretty strong views about that. But then he also decided to talk about the Boston Celtics. I believe Bill Simmons is a Boston Celtics fan. I think he's from Boston, Massachusetts. I could be wrong, but I believe he's from there. So they were talking about the Boston Celtics. Now, what do we know about the Boston Celtics over the last year? Number one, they had the number one record in the entire NBA, certainly in the Eastern Conference, with a 64-18 record. They were led by their top players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Jaylen Brown won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. They go to the NBA Finals and they make quick work of the Dallas Mavericks, who looked absolutely impressive in the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had actually stunned or shocked the reigning defending NBA champs at the time, the Denver Nuggets. They go to the NBA Finals. They win the NBA Finals. Jaylen Brown is the Finals MVP. What happens after that? Subsequently, an amalgamation of NBA players went to represent the United States in the Paris 2024 Olympics. We then looked at the roster and we quickly discovered that the Finals MVP did not make the cut. As a matter of fact, when Kawhi Leonard dropped out, he was replaced not by Jaylen Brown, but by his teammate Derek White. So then what happens after that? They disrespect him. Jaylen Brown goes out there and makes some comments. Him and Grant Hill have they exchange one or two words. You have that. Then we get to the games themselves. And then what does Steve Kerr and these guys do? They totally disrespect Jason Tatum by basically DNPing him for some games and virtually playing him no minutes, to the point where some NBA players started rooting against Team USA for how they were disrespecting, get this, the only American player last year in the NBA to make the all-first NBA team. I'll repeat that once more. Jason Tatum was the only American player to make the all-NBA first team last season. Yes, you heard me correctly. Yes. So what happens? We fast forward to the show with Bill Simmons. And at one point they're going to discuss the Boston Celtics. Then Charles Barkley brings it up. And all of a sudden he starts saying that first of all, he started blasting the NBA for disrespecting him. And he said that these guys are going to be on a revenge tour this season. And they're coming for the entire NBA. And they better watch out. So for those of you who didn't hear what he had to say to Bill Simmons, a fairly short a soundbite I want to play for you now. And I'm going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to Charles Barkley here.
I think the one thing the NBA did screwing up was pissing off Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I truly believe.
Oh, we're doing this now? I had that. Let's go. Let's do it.
I think Jaylen getting left off the Olympic team and Jason not playing. First of all, they were already terrific players already.
Yeah.
And I think both of them going to have the red ass.
That's good for me, though, right? I'm actually glad they got the chips on the shoulder after a title.
No
that
question.
Never happens.
No question. I tell people, I says, yo, man, I really think both of those guys, number one, they're the defending champs. That's going to take their confidence to another level. But the NBA found a way to piss both of them off this summer. How about that?
I know.
Only the NBA can do that. Well, let's piss off two of the top 10 players in the NBA after they're coming off a championship. Now, I don't think maybe Isaiah Thomas was treated unfairly on a dream team, but I cannot think of any other scenario where the NBA pissed off two players more than they did this summer with Jason and Jaylen. I really believe that sincerely.
Well, and you might add three because Giannis got left off Christmas. They were like, yeah, you're not even a Christmas superstar anymore. And I think he's putting the chips on his shoulder too.
So you heard what Charles Barkley had to say. What are my thoughts on this? Were the Boston Celtics stars disrespected? Absolutely. 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 There's no two ways to slice it. They were absolutely disrespected. Jaylen Brown was disrespected by not even being selected for the team. There's no excuse for not selecting Jaylen Brown. Not one. Jaylen Brown deserved to be on that roster as much as any other player outside of Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. Those guys had to be there, right? No discussion. But everybody else that made that roster, he deserved to be there as much as the rest of them. You don't disrespect the reigning Finals MVP by not inviting him to be on the Olympic. There's no excuse for that. And then to add insult to injury, after Kawhi Leonard gets pulled from the team, you now replace him with one of his teammates. You don't do that, right? That was disrespectful. Let's look at Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was the best player on the Boston Celtics all season long. He's a guy that a lot of NBA players respect, current and former. A lot of NBA players respect. They love his basketball game. It turned off a lot of NBA guys to see how Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, and Tyronn Lue played Jason Tatum. They didn't like it. They did not like it. And at the end of that, Jason Tatum actually came out and made some statements on his experience on Team USA, and we actually produced a show about it. Essentially, what he said was, to paraphrase, he said it was a humbling experience. He said it was a very, very difficult experience for him. He said that a lot of people were reaching out to him to give him encouragement, to kind of help him go through it. He even then questioned, get this part, he even questioned whether or not he would be willing to participate for the 2028 team. Yes, he was turned off so much that he's unsure that he would even want to be on the 2028 Olympic team. Yes, that's what he said. And if you know anything about what's going to happen in 2028, we're not even sure the United States may bring home the gold, because LeBron and all these guys are going to be retired by that time. So now you're going to be waiting on the young guys. So imagine having a 2028 team where you don't even have Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown not because of what they did, because they were just flagrantly disrespected. That's the first. And the second thing, I think he's right. I think there's going to be fire in their belly. I think they're going to want to come back this season to prove a point. They're going to want to demolish the NBA. And one of the hardest people to beat, kinds of people to beat in this world, are not talented people. They're not those people. Are people that are motivated and that are driven. Those people are hard to beat. Now, if you now add on top talented people that are driven, it's you can forget about it. You can forget about it, because what's driving them is not what's driving every other guy on a nightly basis. These guys are going to be driven to prove a point and to make everyone look bad. And I think they're going to take out their wrath on the entire NBA, certainly on the Eastern Conference. I think the Boston Celtics are going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference from the jump. Last season, they won 64 games. Hear me well. Last season, they won 64 games. Do not be surprised if they try to win 70. Don't be surprised. The Golden State Warriors were motivated to make history by having the best record ever against the Chicago Bulls. This team may be motivated by something else. And to quote Kobe, they're going to be driven by the darker emotions. What are the darker emotions? Anger, resentment, those things. They're very, very powerful emotions. These guys are going to be angry, and I think that it's going to be a bloodbath for the NBA this season. This particular show was like a last minute show. We had already kind of prepared the content that we wanted to go with today, and then it was like a last minute thing. I came across this story, and I was like, okay, this would be something interesting to touch on. As you guys know, Caitlin Clark is out there breaking records left and right, quite literally. She set an attendance record this year for over 500,000 people have come to games, both away and home games, to watch her play live. That is a record for the WNBA. And it's not just like they're coming based off of hype. When they get there, they're actually watching a WNBA player that can actually play basketball. Like, she's actually very, very good, and she's getting even better. Right? She's getting even better. So Caitlin Clark is something like we've never seen anything like her. She's a phenomenon. Onto herself, she is. Because at no point before in history did we ever spend this much time talking about the WNBA. At no point ever did we ever spend that amount of time doing that. So what happened? This afternoon, I was going through the internet, and I came across a pretty interesting soundbite via fadeawayworld.net. And they had the following headline, and I thought it was an interesting one. It says, Basketball Hall of Famer compares Caitlin Clark to Michael Jordan. And I was like, wait, what? Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan. Now, what do we know about Jordan? Jordan was he was a phenomenon, because Jordan became bigger than basketball. He became bigger than life, actually, because when Jordan came into the NBA, you had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who saved the league. They quite literally did save the NBA with that Boston Celtics, Los Angeles Lakers rivalry. They did. And then on top of the fact, these were great players. It wasn't like players that had a rivalry that were not winning championship. No, these guys were facing each other in the NBA finals and they were winning championships. Both Magic, both Larry Bird, right? But then MJ came onto the scene and he took the sport to a totally different stratosphere. And as a matter of fact, the NBA has not reached those heights in terms of popularity since Michael Jordan has retired. The 1998 Game 6 Chicago Bulls Finals game against the Utah Jazz is still the most viewed NBA Finals game ever with over 33 million viewers. That's Michael Jordan. So he brought in the eyeballs. He basically created the sneaker market. And now, today, Jordans outsell LeBron, KD, and Stephen Curry combined. And the guy hasn't bounced a basketball in 20 years. That's the effect MJ had on the NBA and NBA fans all over the world. All over the world, everybody wanted to be like Mike. He made even rocking a baldy a popular thing. That's the Michael Jordan effect. And then we look at what Caitlin Clark is doing. And some people like Nancy Lieberman are saying that she thinks she's having an impact similar a similar impact that Michael Jordan had on the WNBA, on the NBA, like the way she's having on the WNBA. And she believes that she's going to do for the WNBA what Michael Jordan, did for the NBA. So what we want to do now is want to play her comments, and then we want to react to what some people had to say about what she had to say, and then we're going to really get into the show. Take a listen to what she had to say here.
You know, when I walked in here before the game, there were just hundreds of fans lined up.
Oh, yeah.
What Caitlin Clark has done for the game is generational, and I just, as a baller to a baller, I just want to say thank you to you, Caitlin Clark.
Absolutely.
For just lifting our game up, you and so many great players. But what you're doing, you're going to make all these women multimillionaires one day, like Tiger did, like Michael Jordan did. And we shouldn't hate on her. We should celebrate her, not tolerate her.
So you heard what she had to say. I want to read some of what people said in response to what she said. One person said, "Thank you, Caitlin Clark. I honestly would not watch the WNBA without you. Now I want to see my nieces. Now I want my nieces to see you play to inspire them." We continue on. "Caitlin has forever changed the landscape of the WNBA. Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman perfectly summed up Caitlin Clark's transformative impact on the league. They tried to sell the idea she wasn't good enough for the Olympics team. How sad that take looks today." Her praise for Caitlin Clark was really nice. Also, I would love for her to do more commentary as she shared her knowledge of the game to the audience. "I was learning a lot about basketball the entire time. She was great." And this person added, I'll read two more comments. One person said, "Amen. Finally, an all-time great, giving credit where it belongs." And then somebody tagged swoops to that one. And I'll read one more. "Obviously, Nancy knows ball." And then one final person said, "A good thing for the WNBA." So what do? We tried to make this show as scientific as possible. So we decided to put up a poll on the channel, right? And I urge you guys watching the show to go vote on this poll if you haven't. So we put up a poll about 51 minutes ago. By the time the show comes out, there's going to be thousands of voters. But in the 51 minutes, 1,300 people have voted on this poll. And what's the question that we posed to the audience? We said, is Caitlin Clark to the WNBA what MJ was to the NBA in terms of popularizing the sport? Out of 1,300 voters, 60% said yes, 40% said no. Let me read through some of the comments. One person said, "She's more like Magic and Bird saving their league." Another person said, "MJ made the NBA a worldwide phenomenon. He filled up stadiums. He wasn't even in just so they could watch him play on a big screen. Caitlin has elevated the WNBA from empty high school stadiums and fills up college stadiums. There are levels to this, man." So he's saying she had an impact, but not obviously not on Jordan's level. We get that. I think another person said, "I think it's a mix of MJ and then the Bird and Magic rivalry." Another person said, "Not MJ, she's the female Sir Wardell. I think he's referring to Stephen Curry there. And then some other people, one other person said something like that. Meteoric is an understatement to what her presence is doing. And one final person said, WNBA doing a great job with this storyline. Give that lady the highest paid salary. So you heard what some of our audience members had to say. Some people believe that, or the majority of the people believe that she's having a similar impact to that of Michael Jordan. Here are the facts. Look, she's setting attendance records, as I said before, and what's going to happen is that she's going to make a lot of people some money. A lot of people a lot of money. Essentially what Nancy Lieberman said. She's going to turn a lot of those players into millionaires. And for that reason alone, everybody should be praising her. Okay, let me look at it from this standpoint. If I'm a WNBA player and I want to get paid, why would I care if, oh, well, that person deserves it? Who cares? It's floating all boats. Everybody is benefiting by her presence. So why would you care? She's making everybody more money. She's making the league more popular, and she's going to make more money for people in the future. So why would there be any resistance towards her? And it's now to the point where you have WNBA legends coming out there saying that, which means that she's hearing all of the chatter and the noise. And I gotta say this. I must say this. I'm going to say this. A lot of the pushback, ironically, is coming from women within her own sport. Think of the irony of it. Think of the irony of it. Here you are, lamenting the fact that we don't make enough money, there's not enough support, and not enough people go to the games, blah, 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 blah. Then you have a young lady come along as a rookie that not only brings female eyeballs to the game, she also brings men to the game, to the point where now men are bigger advocates for Caitlin Clark than the women themselves. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. It's unreal to me. So to me, look, I think Nancy Lieberman was 100% correct. They need to stop hating on her. She is going to have an effect similar to MJ and all of that. It's going to happen. It is absolutely going to remove Michael Jordan from the NBA and look and let's just figure out what the NBA would be today. Let's just figure it out. And you can pose the same thing. Remove Tiger Woods. Remove what is it going to be? If you start seeing them, I think the last NBA deal that NBA was the TV deal that we went over. I think $77 billion deal. We went over it, and I believe there was some provisions for the WNBA within that. I don't remember because we did it over a month ago, but there was some provisions for the WNBA. You think she doesn't have her? Not saying that she's the only one. No. Angel Reese and others are playing their role. Is she the greatest NBA player ever? No one is saying that. But in terms of the effect that she's having on sports fans around the world, you can't deny it.